Tom Cotton. Happy Easter, Senator. Good to talk to you.
Good morning, Hugh. Good to be back on with you. Happy Easter and Holy Week to you and all of your listeners.
Thank you. I am looking at a picture of Jimmy Lai in handcuffs. He and Martin Lee and five other prominent pro-democracy campaigners were convicted hours ago in Hong Kong. Is there a possibility that America will begin to treat them like Solzhenitsyn and Sakharov were because they are indeed the face of Hong Kong freedom that's just been destroyed by the CCP?
Yeah, we should, Hugh, and I hope you're using air quotes around the word convicted. This is obviously a sham trial in a kangaroo court, much like the Soviet Union did to people like Solzhenitsyn. And the United States government should hold them up as dissidents and work assiduously for their freedom and to continue to impose consequences on the Chinese communists who rob Hong Kongers in total of their freedom and autonomy.
I just think it's necessary for the world to wake up. Hong Kong has just been crushed. Now, Senator Cotton, I want to talk domestic policy with you. I've asked Peter Baker of the New York Times and Brett Stevens of the New York Times today if they knew what stepped up basis was. Neither of them did. This is the problem with the Joe Biden largest tax increase in history. People don't know it's on them. It's being described as an infrastructure plan. It's the largest tax hike in history.
Yeah, Hugh, I can tell you who does know what stepped-up basis is. It's all the farmers and the ranchers and the foresters with whom I met Tuesday morning. We went in there thinking that we'd talk about things like environmental policy or trade policy, but the Democrats floated this trial balloon of taxing people at death. And then if you inherit something, especially if you inherit a asset-rich but cash-poor business like a farm or a forest, not giving you stepped-up basis, which means that the heir takes it at the value when he inherited it. This would take us back to the 1990s, Hugh, when small family farms and family ranches and family forests and small businesses had to be sold just to pay the taxes on the business. So there are going to be thousands and thousands of jobs lost and communities devastated if the Democrats pass this tax bill. I suspect they're going to struggle pretty mightily with it since, as Joe Biden unveiled it yesterday, it's the largest tax hike in the history of America, probably the history of the world.
Oh, I think it is. And some people are saying the largest since 68. No, in gross dollars, it is larger than 68. It's larger than the 1943 tax hike. It's massive. It's so large. And yet, stepped up basis hides from a lot of people. Family farmers get it right away. I had a few call the show. But if grandma bought a house 30 years ago in Florida and that house is now worth $1 million, the heirs are going to get socked for a huge amount of whatever her estate is. I don't think this flies if people understand it, but will Democrats support it, even if they do understand it?
Well, Hugh, there's still a lot of details to be revealed, but I imagine there are a lot of Democrats in the Congress who are already very skittish about it. Again, let me stress just how devastating this tax is for family businesses and for the communities they support. This is a kind of backdoor death tax to treat death as a taxable event for the purposes of capital gains. We saw this across South Arkansas in the 80s and especially the 90s, where you had family forestry businesses that, yes, on paper had millions of dollars in assets because they owned thousands of acres of forest land. But Hugh, you and all your listeners with an ounce of common sense know that it takes 25 to 40 years from the time you plant a tree to the time you can sell it and turn that into cash. So family forestry businesses were being taxed at death. And what did they do? They had to sell to pay the taxes. And who did they sell to? They sold to giant multinational businesses who knew that it was a fire sale at death and therefore could undercut them. And then what did that mean? That meant the local hospitals that they supported were no longer supported by those multinationals. The Little League teams and the soccer teams and the chambers of commerce in their communities no longer got those contributions either. People lost their jobs as the multinationals consolidated. This tax bill would have that effect on every industry in our economy. It would be devastating for jobs in America and for our rural communities in particular.
Yeah, I point out car washes, 7-Elevens, if any business has been built up by a family, it's screwed by this. But who did you meet with Tuesday that was aware of this? Because if Peter Baker and Brett Stevens don't know what it is, and they're very smart people, I'm not mocking them, they just have no idea what it means. It's because the journalistic class does not live in the world of farming and agriculture and car wash.
Yeah, so Senator Bozeman and I in Arkansas met with a lot of our agricultural leaders, farmers, ranchers, foresters, And again, they immediately understood the implications. And the reason why a lot of blue media reporters don't understand it, the reason why a bunch of politicians or bureaucrats in Washington understand it, is they simply work in the world of intangible things and ideas. You know, they sit at a desk and they bang around on a keyboard. Maybe they trade some stocks. That's what they understand wealth to be. This is not an issue for Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos' wealth is based in highly liquid securities that can be sold at any time. But if you work in the world of real things, if you grow things in the ground, or you plant them, or you care for animals, those kind of things, you understand businesses can look like they're worth millions of dollars on paper, but they only generate enough money to cover their expenses and their employees and have a little bit of savings for their owners each year. So that's why you had the situation before the death tax was cut back in 2001 of so many businesses being sold. If the Democrats' tax bill goes forward, we'll have that exact same thing again. It'll be devastating to jobs and communities.
Well, the death tax Democrats are coming, so I hope you and Senator Bozeman fight it off. Happy Easter to you, Senator Cotton.